So today's our topic is thoracoabdominal diaphragm. It is a dome-shaped musculo-aponeurotic partition which interacts between thoracic and abdominal cavity. In this figure we can see this is the thoracic surface which is convex on right and left side and it is depressed in the middle. This is right dome and this is left dome. Right dome is little bit higher than the left dome because below the right dome there is a lever, so it is little bit higher. Summit of the dome it is known as cupola, and in this figure you can see peripheral part of the diaphragm it is muscular, whereas central part you can see little bit whitish area that is tendinous, or we can see this is the central tendon of the diaphragm. Now we will see the origin of the diaphragm. Now it takes origin from the inner surface of the thoracic outlet, and this origin is divided into three parts: sternal origin, costal origin and vertebral origin. So now we will see first the sternal origin. So in this figure you can see this is the sternum. So it arises from two fleshy slip from the back of the xiphoid process of the sternum. Now costal origin. So you can see this muscular part which is lying just inside the this thoracic cage. So we can say it is taking origin from the inner surface of the lower six rib and their costal cartilage. And here it also interdigitate with the transversus abdominis muscle. And now we will see the lumbar origin or vertebral origin. So in this figure you can see these are one and this is second. These are the crura of the diaphragm. This is left crus and this is right crus of the diaphragm. This right crus is little bit longer and more muscular than the left crus of the diaphragm. This right crus is taking origin from the front of the body and intervertebral disc of the upper three lumbar vertebra. This right crus is more fleshy and it exerts more work to displace the heavy organ like liver. Left crus arises from the body and intervertebral disc of upper two lumbar vertebra only. So we can say this right crus arising from the first three lumbar vertebra, left crus is taking origin from first two lumbar vertebra. And both these crura they are uniting across the median plane by median arcuate ligament. So here we can see median arcuate ligament. Now see in this figure, diaphragm also takes origin from this medial and lateral arcuate ligament on the both the side. Here this is medial arcuate ligament, this is lateral. Medial and lateral arcuate ligament. Now we will see the attachment of the this arcuate ligament. Now first we will see the medial arcuate ligament. So it is lying in front of this psoas major muscle. So this psoas major muscle, fascia covering the psoas major muscle. So this is the thickening in the fascia covering the psoas major muscle, and it is attached medially to the first or second lumbar vertebra, and laterally it is attached to the transverse process of first lumbar vertebra. So attachment is easy. Medially it is attached to the body of the first or second lumbar vertebra. Laterally it is attached to the transverse process of first lumbar vertebra. Now this is lateral arcuate ligament and this is the quadratus lumborum muscle. Now there is a fascia covering the quadratus lumborum, that is anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia. So this is the thickening in the anterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia, and it is attached medially to the transverse process of tip of the transverse process of first lumbar vertebra, and laterally it is attached to the lower border of 12th rib. So it is easy. Now see in this figure. Now in this figure we will see the insertion of the diaphragm. All the fiber they are inserted into the central tendon which is situated in the median depressed part of the diaphragm near the sternum. Central tendon is shaped like trefoil leaf presenting median, right and left leaflet. Trefoil leaf means ફલ્લી. પત્તા રમી જે આપણે એમાં ફલ્લીનો જે શેપ હોય that is known as trefoil. So it is like trefoil shape. So this is all about origin and insertion of the diaphragm. Now we will see the opening in the diaphragm. So you might have learned in the thorax also, and this is revision. In the diaphragm there are three major openings. First is vena cava opening, which is lying in the central tendon. This is esophageal aperture, which is lying in the muscular part of the diaphragm, and just in front of the 12th thoracic vertebra there is a aortic aperture. So in this figure again you can see this is the aortic opening, esophageal opening, and vena cava opening. Now we will see the vena cava opening first. So it is situated in the central tendon of the diaphragm, opposite the disc between the 8th and 9th thoracic vertebra. This vertebral level we have to remember, and it is situated 2.5 cm to the right of the midline. It is shaped like quadrilateral. Now structure passing through it is mainly two structure passing through it. This is inferior vena cava and branches of the right phrenic nerve. In some book it is also mentioned that some of the lymphatic from the liver also passes, but you have to remember these two structure in the structure passing through vena cava opening. Now whenever the diaphragm contracts in inspiration, this vena cava opening dilates and more blood enters into the right atrium. Now another opening, that is esophageal opening. The shape is elliptical shape. It is situated in the muscular part at the level of 10th thoracic vertebra, little bit or 1.25 centimeter to the left of the midline, and structure passing through it, we can see this is the esophagus. Then this yellow color structure, these are the left and right vagus, and these blue and red color, these are the esophageal branches of left gastric artery. In addition to this, lymphatic from the liver also passes through the esophageal opening. What is the effect of contraction of the diaphragm on this opening? When this diaphragm contracts, it prevents the regurgitation of food from the stomach to the esophagus. Now last major opening is aortic opening. It is situated in the posterior part in the diaphragm. So it is also known as osteoaportic opening, just in front of the 12th thoracic vertebra. So it is also known as osteoaportic opening, and it is shape is rounded, and structure passing through it, these are the aorta, then azygous vein and thoracic duct. So these three structures we have to remember. So we have seen three major opening: vena cava opening, which is lying at the level of 8th thoracic vertebra; esophageal opening, which is lying at the 10th thoracic vertebra; and aortic opening, which is lying at the 12th thoracic vertebra. We have to remember this vertebral level; it is very important. Now we will see the minor openings in the diaphragm. First we will see the triangular gap, which is known as space of Larry, which is present between the sternal and costal origin of the diaphragm, and it is transmitting the superior epigastric vein, and this opening sometimes it is enlarged, then it is known as foramen of Morgagni. Now another opening is there is a costal origin of the diaphragm. Between the costal origin of the diaphragm and transversus abdominis, there is a passage of intercostal nerve. Now we will see this medial arcuate ligament. Just behind it there is a passage of sympathetic trunk. This is lateral arcuate ligament. Beneath this there is a passage of subcostal nerve and vessels. Now each crus of the diaphragm, it is pierced by greater and lesser splanchnic nerve. Sometimes left crus is also pierced by inferior hemiazygous, or we can say accessory hemiazygous vein. Left phrenic nerve pierces the left cupula in front of the central tendon, which is not seen in the figure. Now we will see the nerve supply of the diaphragm. We know the diaphragm is skeletal muscle, so it is supplied by so motor supply of the diaphragm is from phrenic nerve, which is having root values C3, C4, C5. So in this figure we can see this is the both sided phrenic nerve, left and right phrenic nerve. So this is yellow color, this is right phrenic nerve. This is yellow color. This is left phrenic nerve. So this is giving motor nerve supply to the diaphragm. Now it is also having sensory nerve supply. So it is derived by central part, which is provided by phrenic nerve, and peripheral part sensation is taken by the intercostal nerve. Now the diaphragm is also having sympathetic nerve supply. Generally, skeletal muscle is not having sympathetic nerve supply, but this diaphragm is continuously contracting. So to maintain the tone of the diaphragm and lessening the fatigue of the diaphragm, it is also supplied by sympathetic nerve supply, and it is derived from celiac plexus via inferior phrenic plexus. And this phenomena is known as Orbeli's phenomena. Sympathetic supply to the diaphragm, this phenomena is known as Orbeli's phenomena. Now blood supply of the diaphragm. It is mainly supplied by musculophrenic artery, pericardiophonic artery. Both these are branches of the internal thoracic artery. Lower 5 to 6 posterior intercostal artery, which is not clearly seen in the figure. Now another artery supplying the diaphragm is superior phrenic artery, which is the last branch of the descending thoracic aorta, and inferior phrenic artery, which is the first branch of abdominal aorta, which is supplying the abdominal part of the diaphragm. Now we will see the action of the diaphragm. So on the thoracic cavity, it is the principal muscle of the inspiration. Now when the diaphragm contracts, the lower rib are fixed, and this vault of the diaphragm, it descends. So the vertical diameter of the thoracic cavity increases. These domes, they are flattened. So abdominal organ, they are compressed, and thoracic cavity vertical diameter is increased, and it is helping in the inspiration. On the abdominal cavity, it is the compressor of the abdominal viscera, and it increases the intra-abdominal pressure, and this action comes into act of vomiting, micturition and defecation. On the three major opening, we have seen inspiration. During inspiration, vena cava opening dilates during esophageal during contraction of the diaphragm, esophageal opening constricts, and there is no effect of contraction on the aortic opening. Now we will see the development of the diaphragm in brief. We have to remember from the four sources diaphragm is developing. First is central tendon. This is central tendon, which is developing from the septum transversion. Now this medial and lateral arcuate ligament, they are developing from the pleuroperitoneal membrane. This lateral thoracic wall or mesoderm of the lateral thoracic wall, it contributes the peripheral part of the diaphragm, and dorsal mesentery of the esophagus, it is forming the median arcuate ligament. This is median arcuate ligament. So it is forming derived from dorsal mesentery of esophagus. Now we'll see the clinical anatomy of the diaphragm. First is hiccup. Hiccup is the result of spasmodic contraction of the diaphragm, and the region may be peripheral or central. Peripheral region may be due to the local irritation of the diaphragm or the phrenic nerve, and central cause is due to the irritation of the hiccup center in the medulla oblongata. Now the shoulder tip pain, irritation of the diaphragm may cause referred pain in the shoulder, because the shoulder area is supplied by supraclavicular nerve, so it is having the same root value, so it may cause referred pain to the shoulder, and the root value of the phrenic nerve is C3, C4, C5. Now unilateral paralysis of the diaphragm due to the lesion in the phrenic nerve anywhere along its course, it is a commonly seen, and in this condition the paralyzed side moves opposite to the normal side, and this is known as paradoxical movement, and this may result in the difficulty in the inspiration. Now the important is diaphragmatic hernia. First is we have seen the foramen of Morgagni, that is due to it may be due to the failure of sternal origin of the diaphragm, and through the gap abdominal viscera may herniate into the thorax. So this hernia through the foramen of Morgagni, it is lying just behind the sternum. Now another hernia is Bogdalek hernia, or we can say there is a one triangle which is known as Bogdalek triangle. So this hernia through this triangle may develop due to the failure of the diaphragm to arise from the lateral arcuate ligament. So this is causing the gap which is known as costovertebral triangle, and congenital diaphragmatic hernia may takes place through the opening, and abdominal viscera may herniate into the thorax due to the positive intra-abdominal pressure, and generally it is seen on the left side. So you have to remember Bogdalek hernia through the Bogdalek triangle. It is mainly due to the failure of the diaphragm to arise from the lateral arcuate ligament. Another hernia is hiatal hernia. It is through the dilated esophageal hiatus. It consists of two types, sliding and rolling. This is rolling type and this is sliding type. In the sliding hernia, it is more common. Here the gastroesophageal junction slide into the thorax. We can see this is the gastroesophageal junction. It is sliding through the esophageal opening into the thorax, and it is associated with regurgitation of the acidic content of the stomach into the esophagus, and it is mainly expressed as a heartburn. So this is sliding hernia. So in this is the rolling type of hernia. Here the gastroesophageal junction remains in its normal position, but fundus of the stomach, it herniates through the hiatal opening into the thoracic cavity. This is the diaphragm, this is the esophageal opening, and here we can see the fundus of the stomach, it enters through the esophageal opening into the thoracic cavity. Here also patient complain of pain, nausea and dysphagia. So this is all about the diaphragm. We will see the different parts of the diaphragm and openings in the dissected body also, but it is we will see it later on. So this is all about the diaphragm. Thank you.